Hyderabad. Good evening, adab, namaste. Am I audible to everyone here? So I'm Nazia Erum, and I've just written a book called Mothering a Muslim. I also wear many other hats, which includes being a fashion entrepreneur, which includes being a communications consultant. I've last worked with the United Nations, the Global Fund. I also was trained to be a journalist, I'm a columnist, this, that, but among all the hats that I wear, today I stand in front of you as only a mother. And I'm not going to talk about what I have done. I'm going to talk about what you can do. And I'm going to talk about something that's happening with every one of you, believe it or not. I'll take you back to 2014. That's when I had my child. Just quit my work when I had my kid. I thought I was just like any other millennial mother. I was working, I was traveling the globe. But when I had my child in 2014 February, if you go back, there was a rhetoric in the air. We were probably at the peak of the political campaigning at that moment. And there was a fierce psychosis that I felt within the Muslim community. I was getting WhatsApp forwards about what the community can do and how they're no more a vote bank, so what should they do next, etc., etc. But as a new young mother, I didn't want fear. I didn't want fear for my child. I wanted to reject that fear. And I wanted to talk to other Muslim mothers to know how are we any different? How are our challenges any different from our counterparts who might be Christian, who might be Sikh, who might be Hindu, who might be Jain, every one of them. How are we any different? Why are we any different? We are not different. That is what this book was supposed to be. But when I did talk to women, when I did talk to Muslim mothers across 12 cities, including Hyderabad, the answers that came out were shocking, disturbing. I was not prepared for this. Let me read out something for you. This is how the book starts. So it starts with a family who are traveling from Delhi to Aligarh. It's a Friday. The Jummah namaz has just gotten over, and the street is filled with very visibly Muslim men. And the car is passing that area. I'm going to read now. Her terrified scream echoed shrilly in the closed space of the car. They were everywhere, the mass of white-clad bodies. They had surrounded the car from all sides. Most of the faces had long beards and black marks on their foreheads. She had spent many nights imagining the horns that grew on that spot. They had finally found her too. She felt panic grip her heart, squeezing it tight. Her skin broke into goosebumps. Her short hair was sticky with sweat. She ducked under the back seat of the car and uttered the words that were choking her throat. The Muslims are coming. They will kill us. Arshad Shah and Haris Alvi turned around in surprise to look at their 5-year-old daughter Azania. They couldn't hold back their laughter. Because how do you tell a child that she is what she fears? How do you tell a 5-year-old who's scared of Muslims that she is a Muslim? Very soon, Azania was in school and on the playground when she heard this. Get away from the ball, you Paki. Azania stopped just as she was about to kick the blue-yellow ball with the white canvas shoes and turned towards the boy from the rival football team. As she stood still in shock, not knowing how to react, he tackled the ball off her. The little girl slipped fearfully out of the football field. The boy was known to be aggressive and competitive, but why had he called her a Paki? She felt confused. She didn't know who to talk to and chose to remain silent. This silence is overwhelming because all mothers that I spoke to reported a rise, 80% of them. I spoke to 145 families across India and 180 in Delhi NCR, and 80% told me that there has been a rise in bullying on religious grounds in the last 5 years. This was worrying. The children are hearing things like, of course, go to Pakistan, you are a terrorist, ये तो आतंकवादी है, इसे मारो, तुम तो बड़े होके उसामा बनोगे, क्या तुम्हारे पापा मम्मा बॉम्ब बनाते हैं? Is your father in Taliban? Will he shoot us? And these are just the tip of the iceberg. The children, you ask me, how is this any different from what has always been happening in India? So let me share a story that a 70-year-old Farooq Waris from Mumbai shared with me. That when a child was young, now he's grown up and working, when a child was young, he had the Maulana coming over to his house and teaching him Arabic and Quran and imbibing the values that I believe are there in every religion, like मुसलमान अच्छे होते हैं, वो झूठ नहीं बोलते, वो ईमान रखते हैं, वो दूसरे से झगड़ा नहीं करते, and etc., which are all universal human values. So that is what the child learned. And one day they had a visitor, and the child goes up to the visitor and says, "Modi uncle, पता है मेरे क्लास में सब मुसलमान हैं, सारे मुसलमान हैं, बस वो अबरार और इरफान नहीं है, वो बहुत झगड़ा करते हैं, बाकी सारे मुसलमान हैं." Or let me take you to a story from Bhopal. When Asma, who is now I think in her 50s or late 40s, when she was young, she tells me that they had just shifted to the house in Bhopal. When her neighbor asked her, "क्या तुम मुसलमान हो?" And she says, "तुम होगे मुसलमान, मैं तो अस्मा हूँ." That is what our innocent kids talk about. That's what we think that they talk like. Now let me take you to a story, not one story, trust me, this is not hand-picked. This is the same emotions and the same words that are repeated across India. Let me share with you a story from Gurgaon, Delhi, a top school, and a child in kindergarten. How young do you think a child in kindergarten is? 4, 5? So the conversation goes like this. क्या तुम मुसलमान हो? हाँ मैं मुसलमान हूँ लेकिन मैं बीफ नहीं खाता. This is what we have done to the young, to the innocent of our country. Either you are a mom who has heard, "Mama, क्या हमें मुसलमानों के साथ दोस्ती करनी है? Should they all go to Pakistan?" Or you are a mom who has heard, "Mama, are we from Pakistan? क्या मैं terrorist हूँ?" Either side of the conversation, you know that every mother today is a victim of the world of hate and hostility that we have created. This talk, this book, is not about Muslim children. This is about all children that are there. This is about all children who are navigating hate without help from us. Because are we really behaving like the adults that we are supposed to be? Can we really apologize to our kids? Because they are only mirroring the society that we have become. They are only repeating the allegations and the counter arguments that are heard every day on the 9 p.m. bulletin in the 10 a.m. classrooms. They're only repeating that in the classrooms. When our national discourse around a certain community has become everyday. Every day on the newspapers or the news channels, whatever be the topic, and national anthem, love jihad, land jihad, what else is there? Pakistan, Kashmir, Hajj, subsidy, what else? Every day, name it. Triple talaq, how can I forget that? It's around a certain community. When I started off this book, in fact, I heard so much about Muslim women. So much. I heard so much about Muslim men. But the narrative around Muslim motherhood was missing, and that is the kind of gap I was trying to fill. And I do believe that this is a collective memoir of Muslim motherhood in India. This is not my story. This is a story of every mother out there, and for every mother out there. Because, let me take you to another story. So this is from Noida, an international school. So a major terrorist attack had occurred the night before. Saad, a 10-year-old, was then in class 5. In his classroom, the newspaper was lying on the teacher's desk as the students waited for the English class to start. The teacher walked in, picked up the newspaper, and read aloud the headlines about the attack to the class. "What is happening in the world?" she exclaimed with a sigh as she sat down. Suddenly, one of the kids called out Saad's name loudly. "Saad, ye kya kar diya tune?" There was silence in the class. The words stuck in Saad's throat. He felt all eyes on him, waiting for him to say something. He was hot and angry. He felt singled out, he felt isolated, he felt cornered. But he couldn't find the words to retaliate. The question settled uncomfortably in the classroom, filling the air with tension. Through the incident, the teacher did not bother to look up. "I kept waiting for my teacher to react," says Saad, "and scold the classmate, but she didn't react. She kept sitting there in front of us without saying a word. After a while, she stood up and began the class. I was silent. I didn't respond and kept sitting there. I didn't really know what to do." So the part of the problem is not the students around us, it's the adults around us. Because when we fail to address this, when we sit there silently watching this around us, as I say, be it our complicity in the matter or complacency around the matter, either way, we adults are to be blamed. When this happens with a 10-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 15-year-old, they know it's an easy handle. The bullier knows it's an easy handle. They know that they can get away with this. They know it will not be addressed. And they know they can do that again to that child. We always pick up the easy targets, right? And the bullied. How do you think he internalizes this? How do you think he decides to move forward when he knows nobody will come to his rescue? Many kids tell me, उसने मुझे terrorist कहा, मैं दिखाता हूँ क्या होता है terrorist. They are angry out there. And they are alone out there. I don't think our kids trust us to handhold them in the times that we have created for them. Let me take you to one more story. You know, when I was talking to all these mothers, I've cried with them. I've cried later while listening to those stories. I've cried while writing this book. I've tried to keep the emotions as bare as possible. If you read it, you'll just find the words of the children out there. And these are all children it's a cry for help. It really is. Quite often the battles start even earlier. My little one is only 6.5 years old and got hit for being a Muslim in school, says Zareen Siddiqui, whose daughter Samira studies in an internationally accredited school in Delhi. A student sitting in the same bench as her asked, "Are you a Muslim?" He then started hitting Samira, saying, "I hate Muslims." Zareen says it took a few days before her daughter could open up about it. "I was appalled and shocked. I immediately called up the class teacher, who had a 2-word response: 'It happens.'" It happens. And when the teacher went and complained to the other set of parents, they said that, "Tum jhoot bol rahi hogi, my child is not like that." Another parent, when they tried to reach across parents are usually on a WhatsApp group together nowadays, and when they reached across, the other mother said, "To kya hua, tumhare bacche ko agar mere bacche ne terrorist kaha, usne bhi to usse mota kaha tha." So these are the level of conversations that we're having. What I want to point out here is that we have to find a resolution to this problem, but that can only happen when we first recognize it as a problem. Are we going to look away? This is just the tip of the iceberg. These stories are just representing a very minuscule part of the society that we are. The reason I have listed out, and I've named all the 25 schools where this was happening, the reason I have done that is not to blame anyone. This is highly underreported. Even the parents don't know. So many mothers came and told me that अरे ऐसा कुछ नहीं है भाई, इंडिया बहुत अच्छी जगह है, आओ बेटा आंटी को बताओ कुछ नहीं हुआ है. And the child will be like, Mama, I never shared with you, but this is an everyday occurrence with me. I'm called a terrorist every day. It's an ongoing joke. Is it a joke? The reason this is underreported is also, and I was also wondering that why is it underreported, and I understood that after this book came out. It's just been a week. This book hit the bookstores last on the 8th, that's last weekend. But even with us within a week, I've been told that I'm playing a victim card. I'm playing a Muslim card. If that is what you think I'm doing, then I can totally understand that poor child or that poor parent who refuses to go and address this and tell this to their school, because isn't that what we do to people who try to raise up their voice? You try to silence them by saying you're playing a card. You play any card. You play cards in your political rallies. You play cards on your television screens. You play a Hindu card, you play a Muslim card, any card you play, our kids are getting affected. And this is all kids. This is all kids. Because hate does not look at your religion. Hate will swallow up every child out there to spit out disturbed adults. Very, very disturbed adults. How do you think a 6-year-old who is hitting each other is going to grow up as? We love putting things under the carpet as a nation. We love looking the other way. We love not looking at uncomfortable truths in the face. I like putting the uncomfortable truth in your face. Will you respond to it? It's up to each one of us to respond to it. Let me, there's another reason this is underreported is when it happens at a young age, 6, 7, 8, we think it's an isolated incident. We think they're too young to have so much of hate inside them. We decide not to talk about it. We decide to ignore it. And as I said, the bullier and the bullied internalize it and they decide to go forward with it without reporting anymore. So as they grow up, the boys, when they are in the teenage age, it gets more physically abusive. They get into scuffles in school buses and playgrounds. But with the girls, there's an added layer of misogyny to it. There is an added layer where girls are told things like, are you okay with wearing such a skirt? You're showing your legs. Is your father okay with it? Not that you have good legs. But just because she's a Muslim. Let me share another story. This is from, I believe, a very important school in India, because it rests in Delhi's diplomatic enclave in Chanakyapuri and was founded primarily to provide education to the children of bureaucrats and defense forces. It's as elite as it gets. And it has been among the most top-ranked schools. So here, Saira Alam was admitted into a class 8 when her parents got transferred to Delhi. In her first year at the school, Saira experienced a lot of gender-based bullying from boys. They would grab her school bag and take it to the boys' washroom and explore its contents. There was a whole lot of slut-shaming by showing off her sanitary napkins, and they would call her a whore. And these were all boys from the best of families, says Saira's mother. But the bullying changed in nature after 2013 as the national election campaign started all over India. Some of the students were verbally violent to her, and many times she was told to go to Pakistan. And her parents, by the way, serve in the Indian Army. She refused to let me complain to the school authorities, as she said few of her friends supported her and she would handle it on her own. But I was very worried. This was the first time Saira became aware of her identity as a Muslim alone. These incidents were unacceptable to us. We have given and continue to give a lot of sweat, blood and hard work to uphold the integrity of this nation. No one can take that away from us. No one can take away our pride from being Indians. A few months later, when Saira was excluded from the Interact Club at school, she asked her mother, "Is it because I'm a Muslim?" Saira had internalized victimhood. These stories are not limited to Delhi NCR. There are stories from Hyderabad, there are stories from best of schools in Hyderabad. There are stories from schools that are proud of their secular nature. As I said, this is highly underreported. How did we as a nation miss this? I asked this out aloud. How did we as a nation miss this? How did we miss the fact that what we say is being heard by our children. I remember when I had my baby and I was holding her, and in the first initial days when I went to the pediatrician, he said that don't think you're going to watch over this child. This child will watch you. And my pediatrician's words are there in every page of this book. Our children are only repeating, are only mirroring us as a society we have become. There is another problem. And that problem I chanced upon when I was in Bhopal, and then I got to know about it from various other pockets of the country. So, unlike other cities, Bhopal has a sizable Muslim population, so does Hyderabad. But in Bhopal, what's happening is that, okay, when we were kids, so we always had, Sanskrit is offered as a third language along with a optional, which could be a regional language. And as more and more, whenever there's Urdu offered, so I remember when we would have our classes for that one language section, we would change. So we would, like, the ones taking Urdu would go to the Urdu class, the ones taking Sanskrit would go to the Sanskrit class, so with French, so with German. But today, because as more and more Muslims come into the mainstream education, we have lots of sections. We have 10 sections for each class. And what these schools are doing is that they are dividing sections based on language. So section A is for Sanskrit, section B is for French, section C is for German, section D is for Urdu. You think you have divided the sections on language, it actually becomes a division on religion. You think your children are going to the same school and studying? They're not. They're hardly interacting. Sections, if you're in different sections, you don't eat your tiffin together. If you're in different sections, you don't play together. You don't study together. And this division fractures our society. This is against the idea of India. Schools are not doing this for such divisions. They're doing it more for economic reasons. It makes more sense to do the timetables. It's easier to do timetables that ways. But we cannot look away from the fact that what is the unintended adverse effect that it's actually doing. This is also there in schools in Delhi. And in fact, a teacher from one of the schools told me that one day, so what they do is they also, because French take us very little, so they mix the French with the Urdu. And one day, so there were like 4 French students among the Urdu class. So a parent wrote in saying that they want the section to be changed because of the M factor. And they were obliged. What signals do you think that sends out? Let me share another story. It was the first day of class in his new section. So I'm talking about Samir, who changed his section because he did not want to be in the Urdu section, because the Urdu section was looked down upon. It was the Muslim section. The best of teachers were not taking up that section. The students know that they are not getting the teachers that they wanted. The Sanskrit class is a genius class. They score much more. So Samir decided to change his section and go into Sanskrit, opt for Sanskrit. Later on he goes to IIIT. But anyway, this is his school. So it was the first day of class in his new section and roll call was in progress. There is a particular rhythm in the Indian roll call. Once the teacher starts, it's like a train chugging along, each name like a station, and it briefly stops at roll number 1, roll number 2, roll number 3, Ahmed Samir, rang out the teacher's voice. He answered, yes ma'am. The teacher stopped short, her rhythm broken. She looked up and asked, with a shadow of doubt in her voice, Ahmed, you're in the Sanskrit section? Yes ma'am, came the young student's reply. Okay, good, very good, said the teacher and restarted her beat. Roll number 4, roll number 5, roll number 6. The teacher had signaled her approval for Samir's decision, but a pause in the middle of the roll call was an even bigger signal. The point was driven home. Samir was an outsider, not like the rest of the batch. And this he would be reminded of time and again. His mother notes that if they are compartmentalized this early, they don't get to learn about the other. They don't share tiffins, they don't make friends. They say, वो बस बनते ही नहीं हमारे दोस्त, बस हाय हेलो हो जाता है. A CSDS study said that only 33% of Hindus in India, CSDS is the Center for Development Studies, said that only 33% of Hindus in India consider a Muslim among their close friends. That statistic was really shocking. Only 33%? So you mean to say the rest of them have never been to a Muslim house, have never made friends with Muslims? They don't know about Muslims? That is why it's so easy to buy in the stereotypes. That is why it's so easy to hate. We take hate and love to be such casual words today, just flung around. We don't take them for the weight that they carry. I think when we talk about nationalism, we're actually putting on a garb of nationalism to hide our Islamophobia. And that is the bare truth. Because even whether you're a tormentor or you're the tormented, as I said, hate will swallow up each and every one. And who are the teachers who are doing this? They are my aunt, they are your neighbor, they are from the same society that we belong. I think we need more capacity building for them. We need not just the students, but it's the teachers who have an onus on them today, and the parents. Because we cannot just speak of Islamophobia as a singular term. Do we address other issues? There are so many elephants in our houses and in our schools. Do we address them? Do we take them on? We can't talk about sex, we can't talk about homophobia. How do you think we're going to talk about Islamophobia? It's just an added layer out there that we find so difficult to address, that we find so difficult to talk about, that we need very urgently to accept, and only then will we be able to find a solution. So these children out there are facing all this in the world outside. As a mother, I found all these Muslim mothers to be very vulnerable today. They are kind of wearing a fabric of fear around them. For example, I'll take you to Bengaluru, I'm sorry. So in Bengaluru, 34-year-old Sumaya was watching over her 3 boys aged 6, 10 and 12 on a lazy afternoon. Outside the temperatures were soaring, so keeping the feisty little boys inside was a task. After spending time in the splash pool, they were busy with the Xbox. Our neighbor Karan had joined them and the 4 were absorbed in a game involving guns, bombs and crackling walkie-talkies. Suddenly, Karan jumped up in excitement and screamed at the eldest of the 3 boys, "Ayan, you're a pro at bombing your way out, yaar." The boys had successfully gone up to the next level in their game. In the adjoining room, a horrified Sumaya sat alone hearing the chatter of the boys. Once Karan had left, she told Ayan not to play any more games that were violent. "But everyone is playing then, Amma," complained Ayan. "You're not everyone, and I don't want to ever hear your name and bomb our guns in the same sentence again." And a confused and upset Ayan walked away. There's a form of self-censorship that has crept into our lives. From what to say, how to behave, we're kind of providing a script to our children. As a mother of a 3-year-old, this might sound a little melodramatic, but it's bare truth. Anybody who has a young one will know this, that as a 3-year-old, for them, independence is very, very important. So my 3-year-old right now, what she can do independently without me, and she loves saying, "Musse ho jayega, aap mat karo." She loves doing the national flag because it's 3 bold colors, easy lines. She loves doing it. She can do it on her own. And when she goes out with me, when she's in the car, when we're out, the world is overwhelming for a kid. There's so much to take in. There are too many things all around us. And when she spots that Indian national flag on a building around, anywhere, she gets so excited. She starts jumping. "Mama, India ka flag, Mama, India ka flag." And we're like, "Okay, yes, cool." She's like, "Nahi, Mama, India ka flag." Okay. I as a mother ask you, tomorrow when my kid goes to school, Why, as a mother, do I need to have a script ready for when will she be called a terrorist or a Pakistani? Why do I need to have a script ready for her to answer? Why do I need to have an answer ready for her? Why, as a mother, do I need to do that? There's a story from, these stories are not from any one city, in fact. These are everywhere, all around us. Let me take you to this story that stayed with me, where a mother says that, think about it. He has disturbing memories from school where he was called a terrorist. Now he has only Muslim friends because of class segregation. And then he plays these games on his Xbox. It's not just one thing, but a number of things making them violent. We can keep telling them it is wrong, but it's a fine balancing act about what to allow and what to deprive them of. All we can do is pray and counsel. Also, how do you stop young kids from seeing disturbing visuals like of ISIS beheadings or Muslim lynchings, all very carefully orchestrated for the camera? They get it on their WhatsApp forwards. All kids are getting this. They are young, impressionable, and being pushed into a corner. I think it's a cause for concern. I agree with her. It's a cause for a grave concern. You know, my father, my Nana, in fact, to whom I have actually dedicated the book, was also a bearded, white, kurta pajama clad person. But he was a man of the 70s, and the ideas of the 70s influenced him. Today, we really don't know what ideas are reaching our young. How do we tell them that, what's the brand of Islam that they're supposed to stay away from? Let me take you to a story. I'm trying to pick up Hyderabadi stories as I'm here in Hyderabad. So I'm going to take you to this student who was studying at ISB Hyderabad. So Dr. Farooq Waris tells me that when a 26-year-old son went to study at the IB, Indian School of Business, the whole family was elated. It is one of the most prestigious institutions in India, and it was a moment of pride for the whole family. When Sadayan, as the child is called, as the man is called, returned home after a few months for his holiday, it was towards the end of Ramzan. He told his mother that he had been fasting throughout the holy month. Dr. Waris was very surprised. I said, very good. But who gives you Sahri and Iftari at ISB? Sadhu, as she calls him, told her that there were 6 or 7 other Muslim kids at ISB and all of them were fasting. So they made a group and each one of them brought one food item that they shared with the others. These students were from everywhere, London, Australia, all over India. Dr. Waris recounts the sudden fear she felt as she heard the son's story. I don't like this, she said. Please be afraid, be very afraid. Be frightened of others who are bringing so much of religion into an institution like ISB. Have you checked on their backgrounds? What do we know about them? I don't trust them, she told her son. Sadhu laughed and reassured his mother that all other mothers of the boys were saying the same thing to their sons. They were saying that Sadhu is from Mumbai where the bomb blast happened. Be careful of him, don't be friends with him. So Dr. Waris says that I realize it's everybody's fear, it's every mother's fear of children being exposed to any other brand of Islam than the one we follow. We have to recognize the twin problem of Islamophobia as well as the rise of a rabid Islamization. Both of them are sucking up our kids. There was this study that said that of the total number of ISIS recruits identified by the National Intelligence Agency, only a fifth had studied at madrasas, the rest went to regular schools. Only a fifth had studied at madrasas, the rest went to regular schools, like the ones that you and me send our kids to. Many of those involved in international acts of terrorism are known to be well educated. For example, Muhammad Atta, 9/11, had studied architecture at Cairo University and continued his studies in Germany. Ziad Jarrah, 9/11 attacks, was born to a wealthy and secular family and had studied at Hamburg. Tamim Chaudhry, the alleged mastermind of July 2016 Dhaka attacks, was a shy, skinny kid who had graduated from the University of Windsor with an honors degree in chemistry. Education certainly does not prevent the creation or ferment in a young Muslim's mind. In today's political climate, we have to be concerned about where and how far are we pushing our children. I wonder, are we really worried as a nation? I wonder. Because ever since the book has come out, the kind of responses I'm getting, of course, there's been the overwhelmingly welcomed dialogue from a major part of the society, but there's always that what about tree? What about the Dalits? What about those from the Northeast? What about bullying is always there? What about this? What about that? That just reinforces my point that we want to look away. And how do you think a Muslim parent or a Muslim child will react, will be able to complain when you are such experts in whataboutery? Because the spotlight is there. Can we shy away from the spotlight that has been put on the community in the last 5 years? Are you going to deny that? We really need to change our national discourse and actually maybe talk about development. The one identity that every child is growing up hearing is that of being pinpointed that you are a Muslim from the outside world. From within the community, is actually often told that you're not Muslim enough. You still need to do more. No matter if you're hijabi, no matter if you're complete niqab wali, even then there's a new level of Islamization that they'll expect out of you. So, I think that we need to do some stock checking here, soul searching, all parents. Just as we are supposed to wear nationalism on our sleeves, today Islamism is also something that Muslim parents need to be worried about. I remember the person who supplies the meat, chicken, mutton, fish at my place has a very stereotypically Muslim look. The skull cap, the surma. And so I get this call from the security guard whenever he's there, and he says, Madam, aapka mutton aaya hai. And my husband kind of says that, no. Next time this person comes to deliver and he says mutton aaya hai to the security guard, please tell him not to deliver, refuse. Tell him ki food aaya hai. He doesn't need to specify ki mutton aaya hai. And I'm like, why? So he's like, kya pata tumhara bakra ka beef ban jaye? Because the security guards are coming from this society. They are also getting the same WhatsApp forwards, same messages, same messages that say that Muslims are eating beef, and our 5-year-olds are thinking that मैं मुसलमान हूँ लेकिन मैं beef नहीं खाता. If they are feeling cornered, if they need to say this, then imagine the fear in the rest of the community. I'll end with a story. I know this is probably getting heavy, but I need to say this. So, it's Bakra Eid. I'm in Delhi, in a Muslim-dominated area. The day often means chaos on the streets in Muslim neighborhoods. As I make my way along the roads, careful of where I step, I hear an unfamiliar sound. I've heard enough goats bleating out, but this is different. I turn towards the source of the sound. In a vacant plot of land, sandwiched between 2 multi-story houses, a camel lies tied down. I inquire what's happening, and a bystander tells me, "Oot laye khan sahab, ziba karne ke liye." I watch as hilarity issues. No one knows how to sacrifice a tall and healthy camel. The camel refuses to stay still and accommodate the men trying to kill it. In the tussle, he lets out some dreadful screams. This is what I had heard. More people join in to see the tamasha. Some coax the camel, others coax the men. I decide I've had enough and leave. As I walk away, I realize that this is exactly what is happening everywhere. The camel is indigenous to Saudi Arabia. The camel meat is a delicacy in that part of the world. But in India, it is not. We are not never used to having camel meat. We are bringing in what's right for the Saudis in a geography and culture that are vastly different in context. The Islam we have was always culturally syncretic with the Indian Ganga Jamni Tehzeeb. It is fast eroding in the face of religious conservatism. Islamophobia in the garb of nationalism is accelerating this erosion, leaving behind a confused generation. It's no more the elephant in the room. Conservative Islamization as well as rabid Islamophobia today are the twin camels we cannot tame, we cannot shy away from, and they're feeding into each other. But I believe there's hope. There will always be hope till we, each one of us, you, me, everyone here, everywhere, every Indian recognizes that this is a threat to every Indian child. There's hope. There's always be hope. Thank you.
Friends, I think we have heard the maximum number of difficult questions in the shortest possible time. You have raised many, many difficult questions, and I am assuming that you will now hear some more questions to come. Thank you.
Move into questions.
Good evening, madam. Great talk. Madam, in this visiting in different cities and different parts of India, did you not encounter any positive stories?
Well, positive stories like when a child was called a terrorist, and when the mother reported this on the WhatsApp group of this class, many of the mothers stood up and said that I don't want my child to be studying with such a child who calls another child a terrorist at such a young age. I think that was class 8, age 8. And they actually collectively wrote a letter to the school administration. The school administration carried out a week-long session on us versus them, which included Hindu-Muslim, India-Pakistan, Dalits and Brahmins in different ways, us versus them in different ways, and helping the children understand the differences. This was very nicely done, but these are very few stories across India. And I'm very glad that many principals, when I wrote back to them, called me up personally. Not many, but yeah, a handful, but yes, out of the 25, I think 5 called me back and said that, and including Glendale Academy from Hyderabad, where they said that secularism for us is not a light concept. We take this very seriously, and we are grounded, and we want to know about this. If it is happening, we don't know about this, and we want to take steps. So I hope this becomes a starting point in that conversation. As I said, this is not a blame game. This is not about Muslim children alone. I hope this starts a conversation where we recognize this as what is happening out there, and then probably we can address it together, all of us.
Switch it on.
Good evening. Thanks for it. 2 things what I understand. Why only mothers? What are the fathers doing? I mean,
I was expecting that.
I'm not saying a gender bias thing. I'm general thing because you're processing mother, mother, mother. That's why I'm asking. Second thing, what you're saying. As a community, every now and then we say, okay, ye fatwa issue ho gaya, wo fatwa issue ho gaya. There are fatwas, even if you're reading Gita, there are fatwas, even don't marry, bankers se shadi mat kijiye, usse. That also gives a wrong message to the entire society. Third thing, I stay in Old City. I'd gone through all what we say, curfew manufacturing areas. It was only police station names were there. Now we are knowing only because of social media. Okay, Facebook में डाल दिया, WhatsApp में डाल दिया, Twitter में डाल दिया. इसके पहले भी वो होता था, but इतना पेपर नहीं, publicize नहीं होता था. Did you feel anything like that? Have you spoken to any school where?
Is there a school like that?
My school was like that only. When you talk languages, we had first language Marathi, second language Telugu, third and fourth language is Hindi. It was divided like that.
And the class sections were divided like that? And you don't think that's a problem?
You know.
You don't think that's a problem when sections are divided on linguistic lines?
Yeah.
And you had an Urdu class also?
Yes.
And where there are Muslim section in numbers in all the sections?
Yes. I have Muslim friends. Till today, I do not know whether he is Sunni or Shia. But me, it doesn't matter.
Well, that is not what I found in Bhopal or Delhi or UP. I do find an overwhelming number of Muslims taking up Urdu. That can be a different argument that why do Muslims need to take Urdu and why are they not taking the other languages? That's a different ball game. The point is that let's talk about what's happening, the ground realities. That Muslim children do take up a lot of Urdu and non-Muslims do take up a lot of Sanskrit, and when you are dividing the sections based on language, it becomes a division of religious lines. And if we don't see that as a problem, if we don't see that as a, I mean, if you don't think that our children need to grow up together and actually be friends with each other, then, well, okay. Now, when you are studying in different sections, any yeah, so that's how you're supposed to be. I think there's a difference when you play in a society downstairs, and there's a difference when you're in school. The children you're studying with in a class, you will make friends with that section only. And that is what the children are telling me. These are the voices from the book. These are the voices of the children of India. We can deny them that, but that is what they say, that wo to hamare dosti nahi bante hain. Ah, fathers, yes, that I need to address. So, as I said, I heard a lot about Muslim women and Muslim men. Muslim motherhood was missing as a narrative. I needed to fill that gap. Also, I think no mother asks her child to hate another child. And this is an appeal to all mothers to stop that hate from swallowing up our kids.
Hi, Nazia. I don't really have a question to ask you. I just wanted to congratulate you, first of all, for taking this problem on head on. There are a lot of us who know what's happening, but we're just turning our eyes away, not facing the problem. So it was very courageous of you to take look at the problem and treat it, head on and research it so well. I just wanted to bring to the notice of everyone over here that we, a few of us, I mean, not me or the people here, but there are a few people here who have started an initiative, an organization called Apna Watan, which primarily deals with this problem. So right beside me, I have our president and secretary, Ms. Shanta Sinha and Dr. Kinara Murthy, president and secretary of Apna Watan.
More power to you.
It was started by Mrs. Kulsum Reddy and a few others many years ago, about 10, 15 years ago. And what we do, I wanted people every year, over here to know what we do every year. So we conduct programs, inter-school programs, where we have poetry writing competitions, drama competitions, and elocution, poster competitions, all around the themes of, communal peace and harmony, and how to live together, and integrating. So this is what we do. I just wanted everyone to know this. The name
More
of our
power
organization.
to you. I hope
Apna
you are
Watan.
able to spread this word to every school
Thank
out
you.
there, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is more of an anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
This is happening, I fear, in every school and every level of a society, and I need you. I need people like you. We all need people like you, and we need many more of you out there. Thank you so much. More power to you.
So, hi Nazia. It's not really a question, but to add to what everyone has been saying, when you say those things and after I read the book, I chose to stay silent too. I was very, very angry after I had moved from Dubai. I moved from Dubai 7 years ago. And the reason I moved from Dubai was because I realized that Dubai will never be my country. And I had moved to India with high hopes. I had moved to India because India would be my country, where I would have my rights, I would have the freedom to voice out my opinions, I would be able to say what I want to. But when I came to India and I settled down in Hyderabad, I'm from Delhi, I chose to settle down in Hyderabad. And when I did, I was very angry because in schools like Meridian, you have bulletin boards with secularism, where you have bulletin boards which say, there were beautiful decorations, there were beautiful quotes and saying, but when we went for admission for Zakia, she was wearing a hijab and the principal said it's not allowed. When I went for a job in Oak Ridge, I was asked to take off my hijab. आप हिजाब उतार दीजिए, आपको जॉब मिल जाएगी. I'm still a principal. I've become the principal of a school. So I don't think my intellect or my personality has anything to do with my hijab. I have a lot inside me. People have to look through this to see who I am. But yes, echoing what you said, and for everybody here, it is something that we face every day. And I have told Nazia many times, you are getting what you are getting, the response that you're getting is because you're not wearing a hijab. Try an experiment. Wear the hijab, things are going to become much more difficult. Being Nazia Erum is a Muslim name. You are getting what you are getting, Nazia, but when you start wearing this, the world is very different.
So let me share a story with you. So this girl from a very renowned school in Delhi, which is actually something like this school, which is kind of not, which tries to do something different. And that girl was in class 12 when the election campaigning was at its height. We are always in election board, by the way. Anyway, so 2013, I think. So she was in class 12 when she said that these children, these classmates of mine, whom I grew up with, she had studied in the same school from nursery, suddenly changed. They suddenly would stop talking when I entered class. The teacher would talk about a certain person all the time and tell what a great man he was and how he will change India. And when that child tried to object, she was again made to feel isolated and said that, you're playing a card. She said that all of a sudden, I was seen as only a Muslim. And I felt that if I thought I was a millennial, but then we realized that we are not. That I might as well start wearing the hijab and actually be accepted by the Muslim community, because I'm definitely not accepted here. So our children are taking up, we wonder, right, why are the Muslims taking up the hijab in such a big way? Well, I guess that child really answered our question.
Like her, I don't have a question. I must congratulate you for all the work that you have done. And I have not yet read your book. First of all, I would like to read it calmly. I'm not a very good reader. I'm old and my eyesight is not very good. It'll take me time. Now, I would like to say something which is not directly connected with your book or with your talk, but with what was just now said. As far as this hijab is concerned, you have told two instances where you were asked to take off your hijab. I will tell you of an instance where a 4-year girl who went for admission to a school was told that she has to wear the hijab to come to that. That is as unfair as asking you to remove your hijab.
Absolutely
So
agree.
when you talk of hijab, you cannot talk one-sidedly. Imposing the hijab on little
Absolutely.
children,
Very
it
valid
is
point.
against Islam. It has nothing to do with Islam. It is just bigotry, fanaticism, fascism. And when we fight for the right of Muslims, we also have to fight against the idiocies and stupidities of Muslims, just as we have to fight against the idiocies and stupidities of Hindus. We just can't fight only against fanaticism and fascism of Hindus and RSS walas and BJP walas. We have to fight against the fascism, fanaticism, bigotry, and wretchedness of the mullahs, of the communal Muslim leaders. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that point, but I would also like to add on that hijab can be a choice. And I wouldn't club everybody. There are many hijabis also who speak in my book and who have done very well with their lives and who have done very well with their children. I guess we need to just become more accommodating and give space to all kinds of people out there.
Nazia, I have both a question as well as an observation. The question is, schools that you have studied in, have you also studied in the south as well as the north? Or you only studied in the north?
12 cities, including
Where?
Hyderabad, Bengaluru, Bhopal, Pune, Mumbai.
Yeah. Study. Schooling.
Oh, me? My
Yeah.
schooling?
Yeah.
My schooling was in Northeast.
Okay. So that is exactly the issue. Because I'm an army kid. I studied across the country and I studied in 12 schools. Okay. I started my schooling in Dehradun, Cambridge Hall, studied in Meerut, Bucklow, Dalhousie. Then the last school that I studied was in public school, Begumpet here. That is my 10th and 12th. Now what happened over there, my observation per se, why I also agree with this gentleman when he said, the issue today has become more financial rather than actually religious. Religious has come on now after Modi came into the story. The problem is that nothing prevents the kids from going and interacting with each other and actually establishing social connects beyond the language as well as beyond the learning per se. But it is the rigor of the current so-called miseducation system that has been put in place, which is preventing them that space to be able to interact at a different level as well as learn from each other.
True.
The segregation on the basis of language should not be purported to actually create this sort of understanding that you have indicated.
That is a part.
And
the
I
crux
saw this
was
distinctly.
always the crux is always how the differences have come in the last 5 years, and so
Yes, I agree with you.
Why this adds to the problem?
It is adding to the
If
problem.
only 33% of Hindus have a Muslim friend, then it is a problem. And if this will also vice versa, absolutely vice versa.
No, 1 second. You can
The
continue. You
numbers
can
are-
take it. We don't know.
I'll send you the CSDS studies, which
Maybe
gives
the
you a number
data-
for that
data also
also.
might be doctored.
70% Muslims have a friend outside their community, while only 33% Hindus have a... I'm not blaming game. Please do not get into blame game. The moment you do that, you take away from the crux of the story, which
please,
talks about
please,
how
no
hate is
contentious-
swallowing up our
no
children.
contentious
Be it
points.
either
I'm just-
side.
Let us just add to this issue. No, nothing, no contention, no data. In fact, we cannot verify. We need to get into the detailing ourselves to understand. So, to agree with what you had said per se, the culture of the city as well as of the school, including the school management and the quality of teachers, makes a lot of difference.
Absolutely.
And I did see that difference even 30 years back when I was in school, when I moved from the north to the south. in
To add to
Hyderabad.
that point, so when I was studying in army school, so I remember I'm also an army school product. So my brother was once called Hamas when he was wearing that muffler around his nose in the winter. So that was once, and jokingly, gale pe haath rakh ke, "Are yaar, tu to Hamas lag raha hai." But of course, it stayed with you. It pinched you because you were a Muslim, and that's why a Hindu kid won't be called a Hamas. And Hamas was the terrorist outfit at that time. Now it's changed according to whoever is in news, Bangladeshi or Baghdadi or ISIS and in fact the kids are very intelligent. They say Bangladeshi if you are from the economically weaker section, and they call you Pakistani if you're not. Anyway, the kids are very smart. So, but it has changed in nature because now it's put out there violently, it's put out there to isolate you, it's put on there every day, and it's put on not in a pleasing way. It's done to provoke you, and that is the problem, and it's done every day. We had one instant when we were studying in the 90s, now it's an everyday ritual for the kids, and in fact, they think, I had so many letters pouring in ever since the last week on my email, and they said that we did not know that this could be talked about. We thought we just need to accept it. This is how the way it is. Our kids think this is normal. Our kids think it's okay that you will be called a terrorist because that's how Muslims are. How do you tell a Muslim child, as I start? And how do you tell a child that is just another child? How do you explain that? They think it's okay. I mean, it's bewildering what's happening out there.
Nazia, hi.
Well done for writing a book that has provoked so many questions and has set us all thinking on these important issues. But I'm feeling, getting a sense of great deja vu because this talk is happening in a school where I have studied. And I go back to my school days with great joy and pride, I can say, that this was one school that did not have the kind of concerns that you are projecting. We were raised in this school without any religious sort of inclinations or affinities. And that is the generation that we have, my generation. Now, my child is out of school and, you know, I'm talking about something, my schooling, which was 50 years ago. But we have all enjoyed that phase in life, and we have grown up in a society in India which was extremely integrated. So what you're talking about is a very unfortunate recent phenomena.
It's very recent, as I said, it's last 5 years
So-
that this has become regular.
Yeah,
In fact, many schools, as I said, they call me and they said, these are schools that are very well known for being grounded in
But
secularism.
we have been
They don't know
mothers
this
who
is
have
happening.
nurtured Muslim children in the way that you are prescribing now. We have raised families without having to face this religious bigotry at all.
But it's
So
not
it
just
is
about
not-
one family. It's about every family out there. We think that this is a
No.
fringe. So many people come and tell me that why are you scared of with the lynching happening there? Because I know as a Muslim that I'm fused in class. And when we think that this is not happening, when we say that no,
of course
this
it
school is good or
happening.
that school is
No,
good.
no, of course it is
Principals call
happening.
me and
Of
said that
course
I
it
am
is
the biggest
happening.
bully. Let me complete, please. A principal called me and said, I am the biggest bully. She said, nobody in my school can do this. I'm the biggest bully. I make sure that nothing on these lines can be done. I know for a fact it's happening in a school. As I said, our kids don't trust us. They don't tell us. We as parents, so many mothers did not know. And the child in front of me would say that, Mama, this is happening to me every day. We as teachers don't know. We as principals don't know. Our children don't trust us to tell us this is happening. They are, because they see us indulging in the same conversations in our drawing rooms, maybe in a way that, like, for example, so in a WhatsApp group, the mothers are together, and the first name of this particular mother was very ambiguous. Second name was Khan, which she never used. So where they were supposed to share email IDs for a class picnic, and which had a khan@gmail.com. And a week later, her child was asked, "Is your mother from Pakistan? Tum log sab Pakistani ho kya?" So it was, and so the mother, instead of reacting, she asked that other family to come over so that they come and see their house, they can talk. She didn't tell them that what the children have discussed. She just wanted to know them. And she realized they're just a normal family. They were very open, they were very nice. So it could have, so you can't say that the parents are handing this down. You can't say that our schools don't tell us, our schools are secularly grounded, so it's not happening. That is looking away. It is happening. We don't know how our children are catching on. As I said, as my pediatrician said, the children are watching us, they're watching the conversations around us. And our everyday 9 p.m. bulletin conversation is around this.
Nazia, I agree with you to the point that there's a responsibility that as adults, parents, fathers, mothers, aunts, uncles, we have towards shaping the mindset of our children by setting examples, basically role playing. That is what the children are watching. They are watching us, whatever we do. A child spends 6 hours in school. The rest of the day he's at home. So what he's learning at home is what he's projecting in school in the context of what you're saying. So the school is not so much to blame. It is what we are teaching them in the home environment.
But there are many teachers who say, "Tum to bade hoke Osama banoge," or looking away when things like that are happening in class. I hold them equally responsible when teachers look away and don't address this at the young age it needs to be addressed. So I guess all of us, I mean, who are these teachers and his principals and administrators? They are us, they are our aunts, our neighbors. So as you said, we are all responsible and they are a part of the problem. We all are a part of the problem, be it our complicity in it or our complacency about it.
Good evening. Thank you. And linking what she was telling, the problem is not in the schools. The problem is in the parents. I'm sorry to tell. And I wish that you can write a book parenting with responsibility, check the schools, but check the kind of parents are teaching the kids, maybe without big conscious, to grow up with prejudices. I work with kids, and the biggest problem I get with my kids is with the Brahmins, because they think they are better than the rest of the class. And they learn that attitude from the parents. Then I put two rules only in my class. Respect if you want to be respected, listen if you want to be listened. Nothing else. But most of the problems is not about the school. The teachers maybe don't follow the rules of the school, but the big responsibility are in the parents. And the parents maybe talk about some issues without being conscious. The kids have a big parabolics, and they just replicated what they listen at home. Then I challenge you to write another book about parenting. Parenting without hate. Huh?
That's the point. That's the takeaway from the book, Parenting Without Hate. And that is, I mean, I agree with you and Aisha ji, because how else do you think the TRPs are high for such hate-filled news channels? Who's watching them? It's us. So yes, Parenting Without Hate. News channels are the favorite. And even our leaders, I mean, when your leaders propound hate, then yes, it's going to seep down into society. There's been a lot of research in the US around how Trump talk, as they call it, changed the nature of bullying and ragging in schools. And I guess this is the first time in India anybody has said that this is happening here too. And again, will you look away or will you take this in a positive way? And I guess this is positive, right? We are having a conversation.
My compliments to you for having brought out this conversation, Nazia. This was high time that we talked about it. And that hatred has become mainstream, acceptable, and something to be worn on one's sleeve is,
easy handle.
is
It's
something
proud
that
to
has
be
happened over the last few years. We are constantly surprised by the number of friends we knew all these years where hatred suddenly emerges of the others, especially the Muslims, and then it shocks us beyond belief. I mean, the number of times I have been thrown out of WhatsApp groups or have left simply because I could not keep quiet at what was being shared and circulated is countless.
On that note, my acknowledgements, the first line, to the friends we have lost over the past few years, you made the hurt closer to home.
Absolutely. So that hatred is primarily the reason that leads to these conversations.
But I'm losing more friends after the book also.
That's just fine. Probably those friends were never worth having in any case. So compliments to you. I just wanted to tell the audience here that next week we have the Hyderabad Literary Festival at the Hyderabad Public School at Begumpet. Between the 26th and 28th of January, morning to evening, we have 3 days of packed events consisting of literature, talks, cultural activities, art, exhibition, workshops, everything which all of you, people of all ages, would enjoy. So, and it's free and open to all. Do come in numbers. Get your families, get your friends along. You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks, Nazia.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for having me here. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gandhi. Thank you so much for having me here. This means a lot.
Good evening, ma'am.
The
last one,
okay.
yeah. So I'll just follow up my question with an anecdote. So I guess it has to be shared with the audience. So when I was a student, it was exactly around 2 years ago, I had participated in a debate competition at MJ College here. So some of my, you can say, peers or somebody, they were telling, oh, that's that kind of a college, you will be ruled out in the first round itself and that thing. So what happened is, the judges and everybody, they didn't ask me what is my social background, what is my religious background. It was pure competition. And I landed up winning that competition after the 2 days. So they were like taken aghast out of it. So I just wanted to share that experience. So my question is, Okay, I'm a motivational speaker and a trainer. So when I'm going to schools and colleges or even some of the corporates, I don't back up my content with any kind of religious analogies from any mythological background. So if a child is coming up to me and saying that he is being bullied on the grounds of religion, how should I react as per you, ma'am? I need a suggestion as per you. Like, if you were in my place, how would you react to that? Yeah.
I didn't catch your name.
Ritvik.
Ritvik.
Yeah.
Ritvik, frankly, very, very honestly, even after having talked to so many mothers, and all kinds of mothers, you know, be it a hijabi principal, be it a niqabi gynecologist, be it an archaeologist, be it a scientist, be it a basketball player. I've talked to such a diverse group, IT professionals, writers, historians. Nobody has been able to answer that question, how to handle this. And I still don't have that script ready, because right now I'm hoping that this conversation will generate many more conversations across India, and we mothers, each mother, will stand up and say, I'm against bullying, all kinds of bullying. And this becomes a national movement, and I'm able to make that dent in that hate before it reaches my child. I know I'm being optimistic. As I said, there's hope. Thank you. Shall we close that, Ismo? Okay.
Hi. My name is Yasmin.
Sorry?
And I'm Yasmin, and I'm
Hi,
a
Yasmin.
Hyderabadi. I'm not a mother, but having been to schools here, I can say perhaps maybe not a correction as much as something you may not know is I'm 60 years old, so I go back, way back into my schooling. So I can tell you this, that it may not have been as in your face as it is now. However, there was already a build-up even then. I'll give you one example. 1971. 1971, the India-Pakistan war. I was in a school, St. Anne's, which is very secular, run by nuns, but the secular ethos was there. We were all friends. I was in a group of 10 girls. We used to have lunch together. We were all in mixed sections. There was no Urdu classes, so I didn't go to any Urdu class. However, my father was a government servant, so I took Telugu. But I'll tell you, in 1971, my best friend turned around to me and said, "Tu to Pakistani hai." And I can tell you this, I was just stunned and I was silenced. And it was especially troublesome for me because I had an uncle who was in the army, who was at the border, actually in the border security forces in Bangladesh. Then I thought some more, because fortunately at that time I was in high school, not a little girl. I was able to think for myself. And one of the things is, why is it that in a war between two Muslim countries, Muslim groups, countries later, Muslim groups, I'm associated with the aggressor, not with the victim. It's the same today. Most of the terrorism that people are facing, whether it's Iraq, Syria, Pakistan, Afghanistan, you name all these countries, it's mostly Muslims who are the victims. Majority of the victims are Muslims. Yes, the aggressors are also Muslims. But automatically all the Muslims are associated with the aggressors. And I can tell you this much, even though it was not in the face, there's always been an undercurrent in the country. I think it goes back to the partition, and that's where the problem started. Long before, it's not just 5 years. And I can also tell you this, because I grew up in Andhra Pradesh, traveling in all the cities of Andhra Pradesh, wherever my father got transferred by the AP government in those days, I can tell you the one thing that the students will always tell you at that time, it was very easy to identify, and in this I'll tell you in Telugu, Turkavallu. I don't know how many of you Andhra people are here, but you would hear that word, Turkavallu, which means you're Turkish, not Pakistani, not Bangladeshi, not anything else, but you're Turkish, which was very strange at that time. And we used to laugh at it because fortunately, again, I had parents who were very liberal, westernized in many ways. they're, both of them highly educated. So this is an undercurrent that has been there. Now, it's out in the open. And actually, I really thank the BJP for bringing it out in the open, because it's time we confronted it. So thank you, BJP. Thank you, RSS, for making it a national topic so we can discuss this thing. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
Is there someone else before me? Okay. Okay, so my name is Asya and I grew up in Delhi in the 70s and 80s. I was a teenager in the 80s. My experience is very similar to Aisha's. I felt very loved by my Hindu, Christian, mainly Hindu Punjabi friends in Delhi. And I didn't feel any sort of discrimination or otherization. And I understand that things have changed now because my daughter has had vastly different experiences from me. And today I say that I did not face any otherization. I wonder now when I think back that if I was a middle-aged Sikh woman, would I be saying that, oh, I have not faced any bullying or any otherization? I think the 80s in North India were marked by the otherization of the Sikhs. And therefore, maybe as a Muslim, I did not face it because we were just so busy saying exactly these things. Tera baap terrorist hai, tera baap hame uda dega, pata nahi kaisa hai. The Hindu and Muslim mothers were telling their children ki Sardar ladka hai, Chandigarh se aaya hai, dur raho. Exactly this thing. And I just want to leave everyone with a thought. We were all, I mean, some of us were very young then. I was, as you know, just a teenager. But maybe if 1984 had never happened, 2002 would never have happened. If we had not tolerated it then, or if our parents or whoever had not tolerated it then, we would never have reached this. And one point which I love, which Nazia has made, is it's really not about Hindu kids or Muslim kids. Today it happens to be Muslim kids and a certain kind of Muslim kids. Tomorrow it can eat all of us up because it will be anybody who's just slightly different from us. Anybody who lives slightly different from us. Anybody who loves slightly differently from us. So it is really not a Hindu-Muslim thing today. In the 80s it was the Sikhs. Today it happens to be the Muslims. I don't know another 20 years later who it's going to be. So I think we just have to kill hate.
Asya, very, very good point. But just one thing, two things. First, it's not a certain kind of Muslim kids, it's all Muslim kids. Secondly, 84, the dialogues that happened were around Delhi NCR. Now it's India-wide. So hate has spread its wings. Sure.
Good evening, Nazia.
Good evening.
Yes, Nazia, the whole talk we heard stories of all the international schools all over the country. I just wanted to ask what's the scenario in all these middle class schools and colleges, because I come from a middle class family and the whole schooling I was never bullied or I was never discarded on these religious grounds.
Okay, thank you for your question. So my cousin's kids who study in a middle class school were never bullied. They just passed out, I think 2 or 3 years back. And my cousin said, so when I started off, one parent told me, I thought it's an isolated case. I didn't want to talk about it. My line of questioning was something else. I talked 2-3 hours on other factors of mothering Muslim children. Another parent told me, I thought it's an isolated incident. When I started seeing a pattern in this, then I asked my cousin who was of the same, who had children studying in school, and he said, nahi, itni buri halat nahi, are you crazy? My friend said, pagal ho gayi ho kya? So, jiske saath nahi hua hai, anybody who's not faced this does not understand that this is happening. Because I said, it's underreported, it's not even talked about in Muslim circles. We think we just normalize this hate. Why, as I said, the reason this book, I believe, is important, and it was important to name these top 25 so-called elite and international and prestigious schools. I mean, we have named DPS they're in almost all DPS chains. It's not just elite international schools. There are all kinds of schools. And if you look, these are top 25 academically doing well schools in Delhi. So the reason it was important to name these schools was to tell that this transcends class, that this transcends economics, and it's in our homes, in our backyards, in our front yards, and every home out there. And we can turn away our face by saying it never happened with me, but it's happening with a lot of majorities. When I say 80% said yes, the rest of 20% were more like conversations like, why is she asking me a religiously inclined question? I don't want to answer that. Or, हमें कुछ नहीं पता, phone रख दिया. Because there's no roster to refer to when you're talking to Muslim kids. There's no one roster that tells me that these are the Muslim kids studying. It was more like referrals. I talked to anybody I would meet for a good 1 year. I was like, do you know anybody who's a Muslim and studying in these schools? Do you know anybody? And it was like, it took me months to get just these 118 kids to talk to me. And it was very difficult. So when I say 80% said, no, it did not happen to, when 80% say that, yes, it happened to me, it doesn't mean, I say that this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's happening everywhere. We need to acknowledge this as a problem as of today.
Madam, I would like to congratulate you. There is nothing to differ from whatever you presented today. But before I ask you anything, I would like to answer the gentleman who asked what fathers are doing. I remember a joke. A teacher asked the children, why the mother tongue is called mother tongue? Why not father tongue? अगर बाप को घर में बात करने का मौका मिला तो फादर टंग बोलेंगे ना उसको. Madam, coming to your point, it's not happening only with the schools. Everywhere this is happening. In the colleges, in the jobs, in the companies, and even in the cricket and football. I have heard friends, BJP friends saying in IPL team or ODI or 2020, this is the Muslim free team. So in the sports and every field, this is happening. आपने इसके reasons and solutions, you didn't specify very clearly, but very vaguely. I would request everyone to read at least 2 books to know the reason, and the solution will come automatically. The book number 1 is the Anand Math, in which the Vande Mataram was written for the first time in the history. Second book is The Nation, written by Guru Govalkar. The killers of Pansare or Kulbargi or all these, you might have heard the term Sanatan. The Vande Mataram, the original teachings, I got the book Anand Math with very difficulty from Calcutta. I translated it into English and Urdu. If anyone is interested, he won't believe me whatever I am going to say, but when I will send the book itself, you will believe what is the Vande Mataram. Today, whatever is happening is due to this Vande Mataram. The Vande Mataram says, any non-Hindu is a germ, is a cancer on the chest of this Durga Mata. Unless I will remove this cancer, I will not return to my home, I will not see my wife. If he is not married, he will say he will never marry. These Sanatans you will see in the history. You will see in the every RSS shakha. And this poison is now in the minds of every parents. And it is already, this poison is going into the next generation also. Magar, I am very hopeful, as you also ended your speech on the hope. Whatever RSS is doing now, everyone knows. Dalit knows, even Brahmin, educated societies know. Yesterday we have seen 4 judges declared war against the government. Day before yesterday, Yashwant Sinha. Today, if anyone have seen the press conference of Parveen Togadia, he didn't name, but now वो आपस में लड़ पड़ रहे हैं, वो आपस में अपने ही राज, वो चाहते क्या थे, वो हिंदुस्तान को बर्बाद करना चाहते, वो हिंदुस्तान को धर्म के नाम पर जो आग लगाना चाहते थे, अब उनके धर्म के लोग खुद ही समझ गए हैं. अब हमारे
Thank you so much for your comment. I'll just make a point that any card you play, be it a Hindu card or a Muslim card, if you're talking on religious lines in your political speeches, then you are affecting the children. And as a parent, we should be wary of anyone using any kind of card, be it a Hindu card or a Muslim card. Any more questions? Or are we done? So I would like to end on this note that when I was closing this book, when we were like, almost going to press, then I remember this news story came out from Kanpur where a child tried to commit suicide because he was repeatedly humiliated by his teachers and called a terrorist in school. Are we waiting for children to start committing suicides? Here, at the end of this book, exactly the last pages, you'll find 10 points that I think schools can look at to understand what can be done to counter this. As parents, what we should do? We should stand up, each one of us, and say we are against bullying and we are against any card played by anybody. Thank you so much.